Siblings blocked me from seeing my dying father and forced me to sign away my inheritance rights. When he died, they thought they'd inherited everything, but they fainted when they found out the truth. My stepbrother Nolan and stepsister Heather decided I wasn't family the day our parents married. I was 12, they were 16 and 18, started small, forgetting to tell me about dinner plans, family photos without me. By the time I was 15, I was officially uninvited from everything. Christmas, Thanksgiving, birthdays, all of it. They told my dad I was choosing to stay away, that I was upset about the marriage. He believed them because they were older, more convincing. When he had his stroke 3 years ago, they told the hospital I wasn't immediate family, put themselves as the only contacts, the only ones allowed information. I found out he was in a coma from a neighbor 2 weeks after it happened. Drove straight to the hospital, but security stopped me. My name was on a restricted list. Nolan had told them I was a disturbed ex-girlfriend who'd been stalking the family. I tried everything to see my father, called the hospital administrators, sent letters, even hired a lawyer with money I didn't have. Nolan and Heather had power of attorney, medical proxy, everything. They'd convinced my dad to sign papers before the stroke. Told him it was just standard planning. I spent 3 years getting updates from a nurse who felt bad for me, meeting her at coffee shops where she'd risk her job to tell me if he was stable. Meanwhile, Nolan and Heather played devoted children on social media, posted daily updates about their vigil, their sacrifice, how hard it was being the only family, started a fundraiser for his medical bills that raised $40,000. Never mentioned they'd already sold his house and emptied his savings paying for their own debts while he lay unconscious. I worked 3 jobs trying to save money for legal fees to fight them. Missed every holiday alone while they posted family photos around his hospital bed. 6 months ago, they started pressuring me to sign documents. Said it would be easier for everyone if I formally gave up any claim to inheritance. Promised if I signed, they'd add me to the visitor list. I almost did it just to see him one more time. But the nurse warned me he was getting worse. Might not even know I was there. They got nastier when I refused. Heather called my employer claiming I was harassing their family. Nolan showed up at my apartment with 2 men he called witnesses. Tried to force their way in with papers. Started sending photos of my dad with messages like, "He doesn't even remember you exist," and signing would give you closure. The worst was a video of him mumbling in his sleep, while Heather asked if he wanted to see his daughter. When he said yes, she told him I was on my way, then filmed him waiting for hours for someone who wasn't allowed to come. 2 weeks ago, the nurse called at midnight. My dad was dying, maybe hours left. I rushed to the hospital, begged security to let me through. They called Nolan, who came down looking annoyed at being woken. Stood there in his expensive jacket telling security I was delusional, that his stepfather never had other children. I pulled out my birth certificate, childhood photos, anything to prove I was his daughter. Heather arrived and started screaming that I was causing a scene during their father's final moments. Said I was trying to steal their grief. Security started moving me toward the exit while I could hear machines beeping upstairs. He died at sunrise. The funeral home called Nolan first out of habit. He started making arrangements for a service that didn't include me. That's when the estate lawyer called us all in for the reading. Nolan and Heather showed up in designer clothes they'd bought with the fundraiser money, already discussing which properties they'd take. The lawyer started reading. My dad had been broke for years before the stroke. The house they'd sold had 3 mortgages. His savings they'd spent were loans he'd taken against his life insurance. The medical bills they'd been paying were a fraction of what was owed. $3 million in debt between medical costs and previous loans. But here was the best part. They'd signed as guarantors on everything as his medical proxies. Every debt was now legally theirs. The fundraiser money they'd spent on had to be returned or they'd face fraud charges. The designer clothes, the cars, the vacations, all of it bought with money meant for medical bills they were now personally responsible for. Heather fainted. Actually fainted. Nolan tried to argue they'd been tricked. The lawyer explained that power of attorney meant taking on financial responsibility, not just control. They'd been so eager to cut me out they'd never read what they were signing. I inherited nothing because there was nothing to inherit. But I also inherited no debt because they'd made sure my name wasn't on anything.